Welcome back to TyNance, another week in the stock market. We witnessed another crazy week in terms of volatility. In the beginning of the week, we had still a lot of fears around tariffs, and China retaliated on the US tariffs, which led the US to strike back, and this happened a few times. Both parties were increasing tariffs, and a real trade war was going on because of it. At some point, Europe also wanted to retaliate on some of the US tariffs, but just when they wanted to do that, or when they announced the tariffs, the US or Trump came out with an announcement of a 90 days pause on tariffs, on a lot of tariffs at least, because this does not count for China. And I think it's quite strange that we had rumors before of a 90 days pause, but they turned out to be fake news. And then at some point, suddenly a 90 days pause was announced and it was actually made official. So I think that's quite strange. After that, of course, the tariffs between China and the US are still on. So there's no change in that. And for now, tariffs between China and US are just very high. We also had CPI data coming out this week, which you would almost miss because of all of the tariff fears and the volatility in the market. CPI data turned out to be quite low, and this led to the Federal Reserve or the chances of the Federal Reserve cutting interest rates. But we do need to consider that there's a lot of uncertainty because of tariffs, and tariffs could also lead to more inflation, which makes it hard for the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates even when CPI comes in lower. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. My portfolio is now back up to $71,000, mostly because of the day that the tariff pause was announced by Trump. On this day, I had my best day ever in the stock market with a return of more than 13% and a return of over $8,000, which is quite crazy to see. I never made such returns on a single day. But if we consider that in the past few weeks the market has dropped a lot and just a little bit of small news was needed to make such a bounce happen in the stock market. So it was not that crazy if you compare it to the drop we've seen before. Last Friday, we also had some banks and financials coming out with the quarterly earnings, and quarterly earnings season is starting again. So in the upcoming weeks, I will have a lot of the companies I hold positions in coming out with quarterly earning reports. I will be closely following them and update you on the quarterly earnings of my companies. Now let's get into the moves I made this week. First off, I sold one put on Hims and Hers with a strike of 20 and an expiration date in March of 2026, so about a year from now. A contract holds 100 shares per contract, so in total I received $460 of premium. If I do get assigned on this contract and I need to buy 100 shares for the strike price, so for $20, I would actually, because I received $460 in premium, only pay about $15.40 a share, for which I would really like to pick up some more Hims and Hers shares. Then I bought one more share of LVMH for a price of 503 euros and 40 cents, just to get my cost basis down. I now hold 4 shares with an average price of 576 euros, so I'm down on the stock right now because the current price is 524 euros and 40 cents. Next buy is 10 shares of Elf Beauty for a price of $52.04 per share. I currently hold 50 shares with an average price of $82.23. The current price is $53.61, so I'm down on this position. I do think there is a lot of risk involved with this stock right now because of the tariff war between the US and China. Elf Beauty produces most of their products in China and they get most of their revenues out of the US. So the trade war can actually have a huge impact on their revenue and on their margins. I hope not, of course, but because of the trade war between US and China, this is one of my most risky positions at the moment, and I do not want to make it one of my biggest positions because of it, even though I see a lot of potential in this stock. My next buy is a turnaround play in Nike. I bought 10 shares just to average down my cost basis for a price of $53.47. I now hold 60 shares in Nike for an average price of $70.39, with the current price being $54.60. I would definitely like to increase my position to 100 shares of Nike. The next buy is 5 shares of AMD for a price of $77.74. I currently hold 40 shares in AMD with an average price of $110.91. The current price is sitting at $93.50. So I'm already way up on the 5 shares I bought for $77.74. Now looking into my portfolio, AMD is now my sixth biggest stock holding, so it's starting to become one of my bigger positions. If I look at my portfolio overall, even though some stocks can be impacted by tariffs, I hold a lot of conviction in my positions, or in most of my positions. I see a lot of diversification in my portfolio, so even though there's a lot of uncertainty right now, I'm definitely not worried. And I think that's something you really want from your portfolio, that you do not need to worry all day about your positions being down or up in the short term. That's it for today. Note that this is not financial advice. You can find the full disclaimer in the description. Please like, subscribe, and thank you for watching.